Faster tears, faster tears, faster tears. What it do, man? It's your boy Demarcus, and this is another episode of the Life of a Multifacet. And today is not just any day; it's a great day. It's an amazing day to be alive. It's a special day. I mean, your boy turned 29 today. On the 14th of April, your boy was born in 1996. Today we're in 2025. And actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe I was born around like 2 p.m. So like my actually time of birth just happened like 30 something minutes ago. But I'm doing this episode right now on my birthday, and for a lot of the episodes I have, I still need to go back and edit and stuff like that and make sure everything's good. So this will probably even come out a bit later. But I'm just super thrilled to look back at my life and reflect on the dope moments that I've had so far in my life, and even just throughout the course of ups and downs that I've went through and that I've experienced. I have to take a step back a lot of times just to reflect on the experiences that I've been able to have through the ups and downs, and how by continuing to believe in myself and continuing to push through, that I've been able to see results that I wouldn't have expected, and I've been able to open up my mindset in different ways. And so I want to just take some time just to reflect on that and just share with you all just some thought processes that I have just in regards to my mental, just ways in which I've been able to level up personally, and even I'll talk about some downfalls and things that I've had, and then also just how I've been able to continue to work on shaping my mentality just to become a more well rounded individual, and just getting to a point to where I'm truly proud of myself for the person that I have become and that I am becoming. So when I look back at my life, I'm someone that grew up in a country town. I didn't grow up in no hood and no projects. I want to preface that, but I grew up in a small country town. So Richmond, Kentucky is probably less than 30,000 people. A little bit more now, but definitely less than that when I grew up, for sure. I mean, I'm sure we probably had anywhere between 20 to 30,000 people in the city. So as far as family wise, part of my family's from there, from Lexington, Kentucky, and just all throughout like Kentucky. But I have family spread out across the U.S., but mainly my family's from Kentucky. And so for me growing up, I grew up as an only child, and so growing up as an only child, that actually, and I can just remember that for myself, it didn't start off like it was a hard thing. Like it was just I was someone that s- made friends with all different types of kids, and I just knew everybody. Like I was just cool and friends with everybody. Like I just got so much love, and that also has just even moved throughout the course of my life so far. And so growing up, I, I was trying to figure out a lot of who I was, because by not having siblings growing up, there were a lot of there were a lot of parts of life in which I felt that I was missing out on, or I didn't understand because of the lack of that. And I wasn't trying to go to my parents to talk about a lot of kid things, or I would say pre adult things, because you're gonna feel it feels embarrassing as a kid. You don't want to feel as if, oh man, I got to go to my parents and then I don't know these things. I got to go back to friends. Like it's gonna make you feel lame. So I want to make this like story like broad but short at the same time, because I think I've talked about some of these things before, but also too like I want to get to the main point of just like where I'm at today and just how I continue to move forward. But there were just experiences when it came to moving in life, self awareness, talking to girls, making decisions, having fun, all these different types of things that I just didn't understand at a young age. And also, my parents were ones just to not really let me get involved as much the older that I got, because they just wanted me to stay in the right path, like the right narrow path, just to be locked in and just not get caught up in any type of BS. And so at the time, I would be frustrated because I would see my friends and stuff going out, they doing all these different things, having all these good times. Well, what I thought was good times, and I'm the kid that's in the house. And the good thing is, I was involved with sports and other areas that's to keep me active where really that substituted for the distractions because I didn't really have time to really think about all the stuff as much. Like, hey, you miss out on the party or whatever, cool, it is what it is. Like, hey, you better go to college in a few years. So you ain't even got to worry about that. But during my times of growing up, I would just realize that going into middle school and high school is where I would start to see like a separation when it came to people that I knew when I was younger, through AAU basketball and stuff like that, and just kids that I grew up with throughout the course of elementary and stuff like that. Even people I was cool with, I just started to see like a big change, and the change wasn't even in like this big massive change of people moving or stuff like that. It was more so like the change of people starting to get the ego, starting to really grow into like that pre-adulthood and starting to get involved in things in which people would deem as cool or whatever. So you start to really get judged on your character because of what you're involved in or because of the ego of people older than you, whatever. So for me, because I was away from a lot of that, there's a lot of experiences that other kids had before me, way before me, that I was just completely closed off to. Like I was just oblivious to. I didn't even really know at all. And so based on the conversations that they were having, the things that they were doing, that would put me in a position to where it made it seem as if like I was someone that was trying to be too cool or because I didn't want to indulge in that, like I was trying to be separate from everyone. But I appreciate my parents because the directions in which I seen a lot of those kids move into when they got older, it makes sense as to why my parents shifted me away from those environments and being involved in those type of situations. And it has helped a whole lot because of how my parents grew up. Um, my dad's from the hood, from the projects, like true hood. My mom, she like grew up in a project area, and so I would say more so based on my dad's experiences, he really helped me to understand the game to like a full like different level. My mom, she helped me understand just about certain aspects as well. But I would say like for my father, he's the one like really bringing me around the environments and just understanding just the ins and outs of life because of his struggles. He went through life. He was the older sibling. Experiencing getting a felony and stuff when he was younger. So there's just different aspects of life that he went through where he's experiencing stuff early. I was talking to a friend the other day and I said, man, I appreciate my dad because what he's probably experiencing at 15, 16 is what I probably started experiencing it like at 22, 23. And so by just hearing the stories and him putting these life principles into me early and then also helping me along the way, helped me to understand how to grasp life from a different perspective. One, because he's someone that has changed his life and he's someone that has taken the time over the course of his life to really gain that emotional understanding and emotional awareness. And so by also having my mom with her certain experiences, that helps as well too because if you have your father being able to really lean in on certain areas of life and then your mother can bring in certain pieces as well too, that just helps to make it just smooth. Now I'm not going to say that what I've experienced from my parents has always been easy. Like it's definitely been some tough conversations and we've had some really hard conversations amongst one another, and it's been there was a lot of frustration growing up in the house early on just because of traumas and things of that sort, and just experiences that they had that probably was a reflection on their lives that they just may have never taken time to deal with. And then I'm someone that's kind of being put into those conversations, or I'm someone that's having to deal with emotions that they may have never dealt with. And so, especially growing up as an only child in the environment that I was in, like there's experiences that they've had where they're trying to kind of pre-warn me before I have those experiences, and I'm not really grasping it because of the environment that they grew up in. Like it's a totally different ball game than where I grew up in. But for them, what I'm appreciative over the course of my life is that we've been able to grow together. Like I said, some hard conversations, some battles at home, but when people are truly willing to grow within themselves, you get to a point in life, especially as a young adult, where because of the transitions that you're making and because of the growth that you're having, you can make an impact on older adults, no matter if they come out right to you and say that you have or not. And what I want to get to is that, for my life, I had kind of just talking about that. I would have where I was around certain kids, and again, I wouldn't get certain type of love or support. I remember even growing up playing sports and stuff like that. The way my dad would describe about how the older guys looked out for him when he was younger, how to bring him around and stuff like that. I didn't have that. I had some cool homies, people around my age mostly, even older guys and stuff that I knew, and people always show me love and respect to this day. But when we were growing up, there wasn't that love and respect on like, hey, this is how you move. Hey, I just went to college, I came back. Like, hey, Demarcus, I'm gonna show you the ropes. So we had none of that. And so growing up, not only as an only child, not really understanding certain things, I'm hearing the talks that I'm having with my dad and even some experiences that my mom went through. And I'm feeling as if like I'm going to kind of have people that's going to lead me along the way besides them because of the age difference. But I didn't have that. And so a lot of times I was just kind of like lost in the sauce and I would be frustrated because I didn't really have spaces that I can go to express my emotions. A lot of times I'm trying to figure it out by myself. If I'm having, issues and stuff at home, like I'm just having to go cry it out or just be frustrated at the world, getting into fights and stuff like that. Like I'm taking my emotions elsewhere because I'm not knowing where to go with it. And I'm putting so much on the back burner because I have nobody to go to. But then, as y'all can maybe relate, you're having those moments where you have such a frustrating conversation with your parents, but then you're kind of realizing they're the only ones you can really, really talk to about a lot of life stuff because they know so much. So then it's like you got to kind of pocket the anger that you have after a certain point, and then they'll make up to you and be like, hey, I'm just teaching you a lesson. And you still got that fire in you, but you got to respect because they're your parents when you're younger. And so for me, that was what happened a lot of times. Like my parents would always show me love, but the way in which they had responded, by giving me constructive criticism, by disciplining me, I felt as if it was just very harsh a lot of times. But one thing is that they never have not told me that they didn't love me. So I had to kind of find a way when I was young just to be able to like block certain things out and feel the anger elsewhere. But I feel like, it did affect me a bit later on in my life. But now I've gotten to a point to where I've been able to grow out of a lot of things. And I'm going to explain about like why at 28, 29, I just feel um, so happy and excited just for all the things I'm destined for and my family's destined for. So again, going through life situations, you just have as a kid where you're having these experiences and again you feel left out. Like I'm kind of jealous. Like, my dad, he's talking about he had all these good times, they're going to parties, enjoying themselves. I'm like, I'm not really having that as a kid. I'm just, going to play sports. I see where people's hating, doing this and that. There could be times where you really hooping, you know what I'm saying? You on the football field and you cold for real. But in the environments that I'm in, it's like people ain't really gonna give you props for real unless unless they like unless everybody's giving you props. For instance, we had a couple players where like they was cold, like they was known to be cold since we was like young, like super cold, like always been cold. And so they're always gonna have people hang on them. People would be like, oh, they the best ever because in a lot of environments where you see people that kind of have a talent straight from the womb almost and they're able to perform on a high level, especially with like different ages, they're automatically going to get a level of clout because even adults and stuff are giving that to them. So when the kids is growing up, they going to kind of look up to them and just be followers. And for me, I was always a person that could compete with on those levels, but I'm someone that's not gonna get the love because other people are gonna feel like they on the same level as me. So as I'm going through sports and stuff like that, I would have oftentimes with people with kids my age would be like, "Oh man, the Marcus, you know what I'm saying? You was all right, man." But then we having a conversation, we talking about that I was like that. Then we go to the scorebooks and everything. You seeing the results and stuff that I'm getting. But I always felt like I just had to prove myself. As I told y'all before, even times where I was young and I was attracting um, some really good looking girls when we was young. The girls that other guys was wanting, but I didn't know how to talk and I didn't know how to be able to move forward. Like I'm still having where guys was like, oh man, you Marcus, you ain't doing that. He's over there lying, this and that. And I just feel like so many areas of my life I had to prove myself, even if it was academics, even if it was a test or whatever. Like I was always in spaces where I had to like prove myself. Now I did have where some friends was like, man, DeMarcus, okay, I see you. That's my dog right there. And I would see where those individuals, as I've gotten older, even though we may not have communication all the time, they're ones that still support me. And I still have a few people like that. But I just feel like for a lot of my life is just always having to like prove myself about this and that and this and that. And even to this day, there's some points where it's felt like that, but I've had to shift my mindset to be in a whole totally different lane to where it ain't even like that. But because of those mindsets, a lot of times again I would be frustrated, and honestly I just couldn't wait to be in a different type of environment. I would realize it wasn't even just where I was at. Like people were experiencing that in other areas, and it was just because everybody was trying to follow these type of dreams. They were having these egos, and plus when you have social media, you're seeing all these people get famous and everything. So as we're growing up in the social media age, you're just seeing a different type of energy that it's probably not like it was in the past. Like how my dad said when they was growing up, like they the type to, and even to this day, they show love in all different aspects. Hey man, you was cold on that court, man. Hey, such and such was cold. They was really like that. And everybody be showing love. Now, if somebody was like ass, they're gonna be real about it. Like, nah, Marcus, he wouldn't. Marco, he wouldn't really like that. But you have to where like everybody be showing love, and even if it may be fake behind the scenes, it's like out loud. Everybody's showing love across all different parts of the street. Where I grew up from, and even growing up in the country environment, but just seeing how other areas are nowadays, it's all about that me. And so even in those environments, it's changed. Things have gotten gentrified, the love and stuff changed. Community's not like it was anymore. So you just have where people in general just don't show love like they used to because it's all about like trying to be the star. I feel like social media has done a number on us because you can see somebody be super young and get put on, and then the whole world is at their hands. You can see a young boy, unfortunately, he's attracting older women. He's attracting, they trying to collar him, at a young age, or they can't wait till he gets to a certain age. Same thing with the women, or you may, have when you're young, they have a huge fan base, and then they attracting all these people. So the thing is, that part's crazy, but like you still have that to where because of the fame, you can even have older people hanging on the younger people, and because people are seeing that, then that creates this wave of like of people just wanting just to be selfish. And just imagine that like you a young kid like a Chris Brown or whatever, and you got people older than you like embracing you in such a high level to where they hanging on you. The people your age and everything as well too. And so when other people are seeing that, they have the ego with it. And obviously, like it's not right for people that's, above age to be trying to, holler at people underage. But I'm saying I've experienced things like that to where just certain ways in which things can move like that, people really hold on to that. And it's just because you got to think about if you're young and you have all the people around you giving you clout and you have the older people, then what's going to happen? The people that's your age, the guys and girls going to be like, man, I'm trying to get like that. They got all this fame. Then they seen the cars and stuff that you in. They seen everything that you doing. They seen that, because when you young too, it's like, it's kind of that thrill of being able to attract someone older. So they seen that you able to do that, and then they like, man, I need to live that lifestyle. And so that kind of goes into our generation's version of focusing on self so much and just I mentality because the world is at your hands. And people don't want to talk about that enough. They just feel like, oh, I know it is what it is. But like social media has really done a number. And I feel as if that's why like community is different, because before it was so unselfish to where somebody was cold and you hoping that they can get to the league so we can all be together because they the one that's gonna get you out of the situation. But nowadays it's like, man, if they can do it, I can do it too. So I don't need nobody, and that's wrong. But I kind of got a sidetrack. But I'm saying all that to say is, I felt like a lot of that was just happening even as I was growing up, because for certain people that people looked at as being the goats or whatever, they were only looking at them like that just to be able to hang on them, but not support them and be like, hey, bro, like, we finna really get to this next level. It's just like, oh man, I see what you're doing. I know what you're doing. So you gonna get there. Hopefully it can pay off for me one day. But it's no help. It's not like, hey, bro, like, I see what you're doing. Like, let me know if I can support you in any type of way. Like, there's no type of love and support there. And now you see nowadays, where for a lot of the people, when sports and entertainment and all that ain't involved, there's not really much that they doing, and they trying to keep up with that same lane. But that lane can just be going more and more downhill. Like you got to do something else with your life. So for me, I just experienced so many times where I had to like prove myself, and I had to feel as if I had to just put myself in a space just to make people believe in what I had going on. So got older, went to college and everything, and I was glad for that because it just gave me in a whole different environment. Even though Louisville was an hour and 45 from where I was from, there was only like a couple of people that I knew from where I lived that went there, and I knew some other people from like Lexington and some other areas. But it was so new to me because it was a whole different environment. I feel like it would have been similar if I went to like an HBCU, like a Morehouse, or yeah, like some of the other HBCs use. You know what I'm saying? Like up in DC and all that. But at the time, I wasn't really well versed on what that looked like. So for me, it came down to let me just, I want to be able to have diversity, which was dope, you know. But the older that we get, we realize it's so fire just being around all our people all the time. Now, when I was in Louisville, it was a blessing because I was always around my people. Like, love being around the black folks. You know, I had times where I was around white folks, you know, other cultures and stuff like that, which was dope as well. But I was always in the environment of black people, so I always felt like it was a mini HBCU for me, anyways. But I'm someone that never steered away from being around from my people, like our women or nothing like that. Like when I was young, and my dad took there was this thing called Roots and Heritage in Lexington that they have every year. The first time my dad took me there was the first time I was truly exposed to multiple black women, or at the time black girls, because I was younger, of just different looks and just different statures. So for me, I'm just like, wow, like I'm a 16, 17-year old kid, and I'm like, this is like they got black women like this, like close to me and everything. So I was just like amazed because where I'm from, yeah, I've been able to get out to different cities and stuff like that, but I'm just not seeing this from the day to day standpoint. I'm seeing a bunch of white girls, and you know, nothing against them, but like that's just not really what I'm into like that for real, especially where I'm at. And I'm feeling like I am into that because of just the environment that I'm in and because of the guys that I'm around, what they talking about. But what I'm really feeling is my women when I see them. You know, I was into like, you know, some of the Latinas and stuff as well too, because there's always kind of like that fetishizing early on, and it comes because of the environments that you're in, where the dudes is fetishizing over them, the white girls and all that. But when I seen our black women, the black girls at the time, I'm like, man, like this is what it looks. These are what our women look like. Like it ain't just on the TV. And so as a 16, 17-year old, like I was just like, wow. So I tried to shoot a couple shots and stuff like that. It went completely downhill. It was bad, but it just got my mind being like, bruh, like this is, and dudes be like, they don't like black girls. Are you tripping? So when I got to college a couple years later, and then I started to see that on campus, bro, I felt like life was just changing for me. So the point that I'm getting to is that it came down to that was a part of me just kind of having a revelation just on my life where it's like, man, I can have my own experiences. I can think for myself. I can move in ways that I want to. And a lot of these things that people was talking about, ways they was moving, whatever, I don't have to have that experience. And that comes with again, came with the girls. It came with the how I want my life to go. It came with my career. It came with everything. And that's just a small example that I want to provide because it just showed how my mindset was shifting where I'm from. When I'm from a country town, you seen all the dudes like they just hanging on white girls. All they talking about is sports, trying to get to the league and this and that. And I'm like, man, I'm seeing our women. I'm seeing these different career paths. I'm seeing people make money. I'm seeing people talk about this thing called entrepreneurship. So my mind was shifting and everything. So going through college, had amazing experiences, had so much fun, you know, got into a lot, learned a lot. And college helped me to truly grow up, as I talked about in the previous episode. And to fast forward, like being able to go to college, I ended up losing my scholarship during my freshman year. And I remember at that moment because that scholarship was the Woodford Porter and that was a full academic scholarship. So that was one where the only thing you had to pay is for your room and board, took care of tuition and everything. I remember when I lost that scholarship after my first year. And they always like during your first semester, you have to well actually each semester you have to keep a like a 2.8, I think. And I remember during my first semester, like I was just so thrilled being on campus. And this is where I had to learn to change my mentality over time because I was just always focused on getting through, kind of getting by and just believing in myself. Yeah, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna figure it out. And just kind of that get by mentality. So I'd have scheduled some early classes, know that I wasn't going to be able to get up because I hated getting up early anyways at that time for sports. So missed some of those classes. Then when it came to homework and I wasn't really studying as much and everything. So it got to a point where I was kind of getting by. So at the end of my freshman year, I lost my scholarship. That was the first true heartbreak that I had because I felt that I was letting my family down. I felt that I let myself down and I didn't know what I was going to do at that point mentally. Um, I had made the decision, obviously, to go to school and not play sports anymore, not even try out for sports technically, because I was like, you know what, this is kind of just getting old. You know, I want to be able to look at different parts of my life and I want to just see like what life is without basketball. Like I feel like there's so much more about my life, and so I had to went into the school to sit down with the little basketball team and talk about if they had any open positions. They talk about trying to get me on as a manager. I was like, this ain't for me. And so I was focused on academics, but again, I lost my scholarship. So then I'm like questioning a lot of things because this is where my mentality this was the first step in me really getting to the point of really being him and really being someone that truly built confidence and truly was building his self-esteem. Because at that moment, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And thinking in my head, I said, but you know what? Something about me I can't give up because I haven't gave up to this point. I'm someone that has to keep proving my point. So I'm gonna prove that I can figure this out. And when I went through that situation, I didn't even feel like it was frustrating, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I didn't feel like my life was over. I just felt like, wow, I gotta work harder. And it was uncomfortable because I had some friends that they was doing 3.5s and stuff above that. So I'm thinking like, why me? Why me? Like, what's wrong with me? But something in my spirit told me like, hey, DeMarcus, it's bigger than just going to class and just getting 3.5, 4.0. Like your mindset is bigger than that. Just because like some of the smartest people in the world didn't even go to college, some of them didn't even have the highest GPAs. And once I started to read more about that and understand entrepreneurship, I realized that like the grade system itself doesn't get you, to the highest levels of success in the world. It don't even get you. It may not even get you money like that. All it is a thing for you to be able to obviously perform at a high level. Depending on what you're doing, it can get you scholarships and things of that sort. But just because you do that doesn't mean that's going to get you to a higher level than somebody else that doesn't. So when I started to think in that way, I was like, okay, it's not over because for what you're going for at the end of the day, that's not going to be a determining factor on your life. And so by thinking of it like that early and just kind of like, listening to motivational talks and all that, and then also too getting just support from my parents, I was like, DeMarcus, we're gonna push forward. And so this was like the first step for me, like telling other friends and things of that sort. So a lot of them's coming back like, man, DeMarcus, what you want to do? Dang, bro, how'd you do that? And some girls like, oh man, that's crazy. So you're having that like, oh, it's crazy. How you doing this? You're having all that like that doubt. And especially you have, this is when we're 18, 19. So a lot of people they truly don't have confidence, but they're trying to act tough. So for me, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna keep moving forward. And this is where I started to truly develop that mindset, that strong mindset of like, I don't care what people gotta say, like, I'm gonna do me because this moment right here is gonna help me in my life moving forward because something's been taken away from me. But also it's been taken away because of me. So I'm someone that struggled with taking accountability. I got to learn how to be able to hold myself accountable. And I kept thinking in my mind, I said, something is telling me that even though this situation sucks, even though it's going to be a tough one, it's one that's going to shape me for the rest of my life because it's going to challenge me to be able to hold myself accountable because in general people don't hold themselves accountable. So moving through college, fast forward, there was just other things that I went through. And there was other times where I was like struggling in school, I would get through some classes I had to repeat and things of that sort, but it was building my mentality for me. And I always say this, the time that I learned to work hard was like my 5th year in college, and I was working out on the leg press. I mean, not the leg press, I was doing the leg extensions. And I just told myself, so we're going to push through. We're going to see if it really hurts. Like, what is it going to do to you? I pushed through and I got through my workout. And I was like, this ain't even that bad. And from that moment is where I learned the switch flicked on to work hard and learn how to work hard and really push through even when it hurts. And realizing that the hurt is just temporary. And so, out of all those times of me building that mentality and trying to shape into what that looked like, I'm also a kid that's building his confidence and finally molding into himself because I was building confidence along the way, building up my self esteem along the way, but I'm building it in real time. So I'm doing my daily thoughts and stuff on Instagram. I'm truly talking about myself in a way, and I'm I'm expressing myself in a way where I'm going through like some of those embarrassing moments or some of those like um, um, uncomfortable, insecure moments in real time. And it's funny because even in those moments, I felt like I was pushing forward with some things better than I may at certain moments where I have a better grasp on life because why? I didn't have nothing. I really felt like I had nothing to lose. Now I've really pushed myself to get back to that, even times two. But at that moment, you're like, what am I going to lose? I got to be able to just be me, and then the people that's going to vibe with me, they're going to vibe with me. But if I can somehow continue to be me, at the end of the day, it is what it. I ain't doing no weird stuff. I'm just being me, and so a lot of times when I was doing my mashups, I couldn't cook at the time, so I would be dancing, cooking up stuff, acting like I got this and that going on. But one thing about me is I didn't try to make it seem as if I was somebody that I wasn't. And there was times where some people would try to say that I'm like, this hate is just insane because I'm someone that is the least likely person to try to do that. But you're around people that's really moving like that. So I would just experience even times of like people saying some hate stuff or friendships and people you're talking to, things just kind of like going right and going left. And it was just a part of just growing up as an individual. But for me, I just had to realize that even there was points and times where like I was trying to fit in and that didn't work out. Like I'm not gonna sit here and lie, but when I seen that didn't work for me because of all the other stuff that other people had to do to try to fit in and how they were truly changing themselves, and even to this day, seeing how that has affected them, I'm so glad that I continue to stay on the path of being me and I got out of it early because too many people were trying to be followers because of the things that I talked about early on, where it's like, hey, somebody's got clout, they attracting the girls, they get all the love on campus or whatever, and they would fully change themselves and never have an identity because they fall in that path. I didn't want to be like that because I always felt in my heart, I said, bro, I got as much clout as them or even more. I can do this or do even more than they can. Like I'm well more equipped than they are. But again, that goes into the mentality of having to prove myself. And there was a lot of points where I couldn't prove it. I can't sit here and try to prove to people that I can get all these girls without sitting here wilding out. That's ridiculous. I can't sit here and prove that I'm better than some athletes, by talking or whatever. I'm not on the field. I can't prove all this and that. Like, what's the point? And I started to realize, you know what, DeMarcus, you just around wrong types of people. And even people that you may be around that's cool, they can still be the wrong types if they're trying to follow those crowds. So all these mental things that I'm going through as a kid really helped to shape what my mindset was like. And I'm super proud of that. So as I'm going through life, again, going through college, I told you about like the working hard and all that. I'm still continuing to build, right? And so my mentality, I'm proud of myself because my confidence was really building up like tremendously, and even going through acne problems, going through Accutane and all that. Like I even look back at pictures, even gaining weight and all that. I look back and I'm like, dang, like you were very insecure at some points, but you were also secure and you were always also being yourself. And the beautiful thing about it, man, and this is where like I talk about being 29 and how thrilled I am and how young I feel and how young that I am, but also we're just getting started is because by going through all the times where I was overthinking, insecure, getting into it, getting out of it with people, things not flowing, me feeling as if I didn't have support or whatever, till this day, I have so many people that reach out to me to show love. They appreciate who I am. They tell me that I've always stood solid. I haven't changed up. People come up, tell me like, "Hey, DeMarcus, like, man, I'm proud of you for what you're doing, man. You inspiring me." And I would have never thought that I would be doing it, even on this level that I have. I'm not famous or nothing like that, but the level that I have, to where you talking about 10 plus years, people continue to give me the love because of what they remember from college and high school and when I was young. But at the time, they may not have seen it. Some people, they really was involved with the crowds, and they've came back and be like, you know what, like I was just involved with this and that. Like I see what you're talking about, boom, boom, boom. But for me as an individual, I've grown to the point to where it's like it is what it is. Like that's in the past. I know who I've continued to be, so I'm not chasing none of that. I wasn't at the time, anyways. So who I am is just who I've always pushed to be and who I'm continuing to be. And so after college, going back home for a couple of years, being stuck, and then not wanting to be in that environment, I was just like, man, I always said that I would never go back home. And then that was a point where hey, I ate my own words. I went back home because of the pandemic and I was back home. And so what I told myself, I said, you know what? This is the time where you can learn how to truly work on yourself, Marcus, because you have that time. You're away from everybody. You got to figure out ways to work on you. See, a lot of times we're around so many people or even around friends and stuff like that all the time. I don't care what type of person that you are. You've got to be able to have time with yourself to work on you, because there's going to be ways in which you move that other people can just be in your space, and that can just take away from what you're doing, take away from who you're becoming. And so even though like I was back home with my parents, good thing I was able to be downstairs in the basement. So my parents, they was upstairs. I was upstairs a little bit from when I first, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I was upstairs at first because I always had like this fear of like bugs and stuff like that, spiders and stuff always crawling downstairs. We in the country, so you have them coming downstairs in the basement. But I say, you know what? Am I gonna keep being scared about this? You know, if I want some privacy for my life or whatever, I don't want to sit here and be upstairs with them all day. Like, I want to be able to have my own space. So I said, you know, we're gonna get over this. Like, we're gonna figure out a way to get some bug spray or whatever. DeMarcus, you need your space. You got to get away from this. Why? Because you went to college, and especially when you're in small towns or from small towns, and you're in environments that are not too far from you, unfortunately, you get a part of you become a part of the same stories. You fall into that same circle and cycle. You can go away for 5 years, 6 years, or whatever. It's different if you've been doing like a lot of things for longer than that, but in that short period span of like 2 to 5 years, once you come back to the environment, it kind of feels as if you right back to what you were just in before you left. Why? Because the same people are doing the same stuff. People aren't growing. People aren't leveling up. All they're doing is focusing on how to outdo people in that same environment that you always grew up with. So for me, I was like, man, we got to figure out a way to at least maximize what we're doing here and focus on a different type of goal. So for me, I was so insecure about being home. I had gained the most whatever. I had just got out of a relationship. It was weird towards the end, and I'm just like, I'm at my highest weight and everything. We got to figure something out. So then I just challenged myself for real. I got into that gym. I started working out. I started to learn more about myself. A guy that I was cool with at the time, we had did like the clothing line. You know, eventually, it kind of went left, but still at that time we were building. You know what I'm saying? Learning how to do prints, learning how to do my own t-shirts, just changing my mentality, at that time, to the end of me really getting to New York. I mean, it had been like, it was like 2.5 years of me not having any type of intimacy. So, or like two to 2.5 years of me having no intimacy. So even in that moment, I had to really depend on like, hey, DeMarcus, you ain't gonna be sitting here hitting up no random girls and not random girls, but you ain't gonna have time to sit here and be hitting up no girls and just seeing, if y'all can hang out, them hollering at you. Like, it's just not gonna happen, because you ain't even trying to mess with nobody back home anyway. So, and you know that you ain't even really got no environment to get to. You know what I'm saying? You got weight on you, what I'm saying? People done graduated or whatever, and people ain't really hitting you up. It's like a lot of weird stuff was going on at that time because of COVID. So I already felt out of place anyway. So I said, you know what? Like, let me just stay in my zone. Friends ain't hitting me up. They going on vacays and everything. Some friends did. So I want to preface that. But some old people I was running with, they there was going places, not hitting me up, not checking in. So I just felt like my emotions were just at an all-time high, just like feeling depleted. And so from that moment, I said, you know what, DeMarcus, we got to take time to work on ourselves. We got to really dive into that bag. And so I was already doing that a bit in college. I would say quite a bit in college, but having roommates and stuff like that, I didn't have the true space to myself to kind of like figure out ways that I wanted to move, because someone's always in my environment. So the work that I did from high school, college, like, all that's still going into the funnel. But having that time to myself when I was back home, that was great. So having all that time to work on me, I ended up like getting down some weight, but still had keloids and stuff on my face, like they was growing back, having all that. So this is when I first going through the whole keloid process. Got some of those removed, had to end up getting more surgeries and everything. But this is where I'm truly building my confidence, because I'm still loving myself through the process. So I get down, I lose like 40 something pounds on weight. And so then I talked to my boys. We ended up moving to New York around like the end of like August of 2021. So there, about me working on this whole process during the time, I'm also getting excited because we're finally coming to a conclusion about moving to New York. Moved to New York, you know what I'm saying? Still building within myself, right? But I feel like I'm now in a whole different environment. And I'm not scared at all. I'm actually super excited because I'm somewhere different, but I'm somewhere where there's always stuff going on. So shout out to my boys. They were able to, and a lot of other people that I had a chance of meeting, they were able to really help me to kind of get my feet into this new space. Really, I would probably say like for a little bit, some of my boys that have been in the city, they were showing me around and stuff like that. But I'm someone where you put me in an environment, you put me in a space, all you got to do is show me a little bit, I'm gonna run with it. Same thing if you're showing me something about a business plan, if you're showing me something about working out, whatever it is. All you gotta do is show me one time. All you gotta do is give me a couple cliff notes. Just give me a couple words about what I need to do. After that, I'm done. I can get out of your face. You can get out of mine. I don't need nothing else. So when I got to New York, I was like, I can be able to move freely like how I want. This is like how the environment. It's not like college. Because college, everybody's together, but it's like this is like adult college. Hey, bro, I'm gonna do my thing. Y'all do. We can meet up when we need to, but it's all good. So New York helped me to really open my mind to like being on my own and really figuring it out. And so I'm gonna go into a part two, but this is part one of this episode, and I can't wait to even talk more about how I shifted my mindset into like where I'm at now. So I'll be back. Definitely hoping that y'all liking this so far. It's your boy Demarcus. Let's get it.